Okay, a great day to you, viewers all over the world. This is Breeding Psychology X Plus. Today we'll be talking about dealing with identity crisis. Dealing with identity crisis. Identity crisis is a global challenge right now because a lot of people they find it difficult to accept themselves. Identity crisis can be seen when you see people find it very difficult to come to terms of who they really are. And this identity crisis is causing a lot of havoc in the world. Therefore, there is a need to talk about this crisis. Identity crisis is a type of complex that affects both male and female. It affects different kinds of people for different reasons. And we have to understand that identity crisis is a serious cankerworm that can destroy the world. Now, this identity crisis has been leading to many problems in the world. For instance, we have the cases of rape happening in prisons in some countries of the world because some individuals believe that they are female and yet they were male by birth. At the end of the day, when they are put in female cells, their natural instinct is that they begin to rape the opposite sex. So, what do we call identity crisis? Identity crisis can be defined as the feelings of inadequacy about your original identity at the point of birth. A lot of people were born in a particular identity, with a particular identity at birth. But at the end of the day, because of the stages in life, people decide to have feelings of insecurity about their natural identity. And identity crisis, is a very serious crisis because it leads to agitation and that individual seeks for a change. That seeking for change leads to tension, which may cause the person to be able begin to behave irrationally or in a withdrawn manner or in a psychotic manner. And so we have to understand that what is the genesis of identity crisis? We have to understand that the creator is not the author of confusion, but human beings in the quest to become whatever they want to become or whatever we want to become, we begin to give ourselves standards that are destroying our world today. And the moment we begin to reject who we really are, then we begin to tend towards embracing who we are not. And when we embrace who we are not, there's going to be problem and tension. Just imagine, a person saying, I'm not a man, I'm a woman, or somebody saying, I'm not a human being, I'm a cat, or some people telling you, I'm not a girl, I'm a biro. You see a lot of things that are happening in the world. And when you understand that identity crisis is a very serious matter, we have to understand the stages of identity crisis. There are different stages of identity crisis. The first stage of identity crisis that we need to talk about is the stage of diffusion. This stage of diffusion is a state whereby the individual doesn't really know who he is or who she is. And whoever is in this state, has a question mark in his or her mind, and that person will try to find question. And the second phase or stage of identity crisis is what we call the moratorium stage. This is a stage of exploration. When people have problems, they have issues with their identity, they tend to start to explore different options. And when people begin to explore different options, it leads them into different level of tension. So we call it the stage of moratorium. The third stage of identity crisis is what we call the stage, of what we call identity. Is a type of stage that identity foreclosure. When a person has explored all type of identity that is available, and that person wants to close up on one identity, we call it the stage of identity foreclosure. And the final stage is what we call the stage of identity achievement. But all these stages of identity crisis, in all these stages of identity crisis, we have to understand that every stage has its own implication. For instance, the stage of diffusion. At that stage of diffusion, we discover that it is the lack of information that normally causes the state of diffusion or immaturity. When people are born into this world into one gender or the other, there is no confusion about it. In the hospital that you are born in, the doctors will announce to you, this is a male, this is a female. But in the world today, a lot of people now begin to say when a child is born with a particular sex, it doesn't mean that is the sex the child will choose. So meaning that the child can choose the type of sex he or she desires to have, and so that leads to what we call diffusion. And followed by moratorium. And no, and when the child begins to get to the level of maybe teenager, at the level of the teenage age, moratorium sets in. That's the stage of exploration whereby a boy can say, I don't really feel like a boy because I'm feminine in character, therefore I'm a girl. And so this stage of moratorium, leads to another type of tension. Then also we move to the stage of foreclosure. Many people explore many things, and now they now determine that, okay, this is the type of identity I want to associate with. So thereby, that's when you see people undergoing what we call surgeries. Some people can do what we call life altering surgeries, that a boy can now become a girl, and they change their genitals to match their new personality, and it leads to another level of crisis. Then we talk about the final stage is the stage of what we call identity achievement. So people now, at some point, they now accept the identity that they choose for themselves, and they now achieve whatever goals they want to achieve in life in that particular identity. Now, what are the symptoms of identity crisis? Today, we are focusing on sexual identity. There are different types of identity crisis. We have what we call the age-related crisis. We talked about career, related crisis. We talked about group-related crisis, and so on and so forth. But today we are focusing on sex-related crisis. Sex or gender-based crisis, which is also known as sexual dysphoria, you know, or what we call gender dysphoria. So, and basically, what are the symptoms, of this crisis? When we talk about crisis itself, a crisis is a very difficult and dangerous situation that can cause the individual to, to go into a very bad situation. When we say when we call anything a crisis situation, it means that it's a serious situation that is dangerous to that individual. And in our world today, if we allow gender-based crisis to continue, definitely there will be dangerous things happening in our world. For instance, we have male, entering female world, telling them that because they feel like female, definitely they are female, and therefore it leads to different type of problems. So basically, gender-based crisis is a very serious crisis that is very difficult to avoid. One of the main features of sexual-based crisis is what we call low self-esteem. When people begin to, involve in gender change, and they get into a crisis situation, they have low self-esteem. Also, it leads to anxiety, it leads to emotional imbalance, then it also leads to increased tension in the society. And what are the causes of what we call gender or sexual based crisis? What are the causes? There are certain things that causes these things. Some people, when they start having this issue, it's as a result of indoctrination. Whatever people that have, whatever authority figures around you say to you matters a lot. Some people have been indoctrinated that this is who you are. And when people begin to question who they are, it begins to lead to crisis. Also, we talk about manipulation. Some people are manipulated through money. We have some people giving millions of dollars to individuals that want to change their identity. So you find a lot of young males trying to become a female, or you find a lot of young females trying to change their gender because they have been encouraged by certain influential people in the society who have manipulated them with money. Also, we talked about psychopathology of childhood development. You see, when people are warped from childhood, we have some children that they have warped mindset even from childhood. So when people become warped in their thinking, but begin to entertain illogical thoughts, it can lead to sexual based crisis or gender based crisis. Also, we talked about negative role model. You see, negative role model has been seen to cause what we call gender-based crisis or identity-based crisis. And once the identity is questioned, once the person's identity is questioned, the person becomes the fake of the original. According to John Mason, he said a lot of people are born in the world as originals, but they die as photocopies. So when people begin to change identities and they begin to experience crisis, you discover that they are already the fake of the original that was born in the hospital wherever they are born in the world. And what are the implications of sexual identity crisis? Sexual identity crisis has some implications. Number one, This crisis can lead to aggressive behavior. For instance, we have some people that changes their gender and they become very aggressive when you tell them that originally they were the opposite sex. For instance, a man that is now identifying as a woman that changed, he did a surgery for and became a woman. You know, you discover that that person, when you remember remind the person that he was originally born as a man, may lead to aggressive behavior. Also, it can lead to body mutilation. A lot of people do tattoos, you know, to look like certain set of people. We have people doing different tattoos all over their body, and at the end of the day, when they want to look hard, they want to look, you know, like somebody else. At the end of the day, it may lead to body mutilation, which may lead to crisis. Some people want to change back to their original state when when they discover how difficult it is for them to change back to their original identity. It leads to crisis. Also, it leads to depression. A lot of people in the world are depressed right now because of what we call identity related crisis, especially sexual identity related crisis. Also, it leads to societal rejection. All over the world now, we have the problem of people not wanting to accept, you know, the LGBT community. You know, a lot of people are identifying as LGBT all over the world right now. And we have not everybody will accept that change. And because not everybody is not going to accept that change, it's going to lead to crisis. So those some of them it leads to suicide. When you change your identity, you know, you are a man, you change to a woman. I'm talking about sexuality identity, and it will lead to crisis by the time people don't want to accept you. Let's say you have colleagues that decide to say you are a man or you are a woman, it leads to tension, and this all these things lead to crisis. And so I believe that we should understand that identity crisis is a very serious crisis in our world, which should actually be eradicated. What are the things that we can do to eradicate identity-based crisis? What are the way forward? Is there any way forward? Of course, there are psychological things to do that will help us to live above identity-based crisis, because you are original of yourself. When you understand that you are the original of yourself, then you will be able to understand how to live against identity-based crisis. One thing that we can do is that number one, we must find out the truth about ourselves. To live above identity-based crisis, you must understand the truth about yourself. Who are you? A lot of people cannot even answer the question of who they are. If you don't know who you are, then you should not become who you are not. If you can answer the question that who are you, if you are able to answer the question of who you really are, then you'll be able to solve the problem of identity-based crisis. And how do you know who you are? You need to ask questions. Where were you born? Which hospital were you born at? Who are your parents? You know, where did you originate from? When you understand who you are, you won't struggle with what we call gender or identity based crisis. Number two, you must accept yourself. If you cannot accept yourself, then the world cannot accept you. So we have to understand personal love and personal acceptance gives room to societal acceptance. When you love yourself and you carry yourself with dignity, eventually society they will have no choice than to accept you. You will see people like Martin Luther King. You know, he was saying that I have a dream. He said he had a dream when the black man will be accepted by the blacks, that nobody will be judged. That his dream was, he's trying to build a world that the color of the skin will not determine wherever he or she will be in life. So he was looking for a world whereby neither black color or white color will determine how far you can go in life. And he believed so much in this history. He was assassinated, but he had a lot of followers that also believed in him. So if you accept yourself, the society will accept you, regardless of your race, gender, or color. We also have to talk about the change of association. Who are your friends? Who are your friends? You will be feeling like a lady because probably most of the people that you are following, maybe they are men that turn to ladies. And so when you change your association and you move with people that reason the right way that they are supposed to reason, you're likely to solve this problem of gender identity. Then you must get busy with achieving your life goals. What are your life goals? A lot of people don't have goals in life. And so when people influence them negatively, they tend they tend to follow people's advice, even if it is detrimental to their growth and progress. Then finally, we have to understand that this crisis, you know, can actually be solved when we believe when we believe ourselves and believe who God say we are. In the story of creation, we discover that the Bible says, let's make man in our own image, in the image of their likeness. And the Bible also said in Genesis, said, and he made them male and female, made he them. So originally, you have to understand that biblically, in the story of creation, men were made as male and female. But when we got into the world, when men started expanding and when technology started coming and people started developing knowledge, people now decided to the point that somebody will say, I want to be like a dog. I want to be like a dog. I want to be a cat, But if you believe in the original creation that God has made, and we believe what God has said about us, we won't struggle with gender-based identity. This is breeding psychology explores. Until we meet again, have a great night rest. Thank you very much. Dr. Wukwala and God bless you. Thank you.